Hello and welcome to Cozy News Corner week 14 and 15. And I have missed a couple of stories these 2 weeks. I have been a little bit off, but I have captured a couple of good ones. So let's get right into it. First, a couple of short ones. We have System D that has a privilege elevation vulnerability. Which is, of course, important to look over and update your System D. And next up, we have the Node.js, which has an important denial of service. So Node.js, if you're using the latest one in Debian, the 2019, then update that one. Next up, we have MongoDB that has information exposure threat, which is not good for a database that could be online. Next up, we have QEMU, which has a critical denial of service execution. So this is something that you are running virtual machines in, and if you can make a denial of service of it, of course, some services could just stop working. And then we have Fedora Umbra key updates access, so that's also important to update. The undertow would allow unintended access to user sessions over the network, so that sounds really bad. And Ruby has a critical sensitive information exposure, so we need to update Ruby. And Rust tar key permission escalation, so the tar RS, so the couple of tools that are written in Rust that should be replacing the old C libraries. One of those has a permission escalation problem, which is not good, of course. And now we go over to the news. And the first news we have is France. And the government of France have declared and state clearly that they now don't want to use US-based or pretty much anything that is not made in France or similar. So they want to move away from Microsoft products and Excel, Word, and so on. So the ministry has formalized a requirement that they should implement this by autumn 2026. This is a formal declaration from the Europe's largest governments, explicitly designating Linux as the replacement for Windows. And the France National Health Assurance Body, CNAM, is migrating 80,000 of its agents to use more homegrown tools instead. And so moving away from proprietary things built in the US to something that they have created by themselves. And then we have a quote from their ministry. Digitally, sovereignty is not optional. It's a strategy necessity. Europe must equip itself with the means to match its ambitions, and France is leading by example by accelerating the shift to a sovereign, interoperable, and sustainable solutions. And the country has also mandated that every government department switch to Visio, its homegrown MIT licensed alternative to Teams and Zoom, by 2027. So France is moving away from anything to do with software built in other countries than France. And next up, we have OpenOffice that has also been forked to make an European-made thing with Spark licensing, and it sparks a licensing and trust debate. And the thing that they are trying to create by making this fork is, of course, something that could be used by any Europe-based entity like departments and so on. And one of the quotes that they had in this article from the EuroOffice repository, OnlyOffice is a Russian company, despite many attempts to hide this, and nearly all the developers reside in Russia. Open source is a global effort, but current political situation makes collaboration hard and trust difficult to earn, especially when the development is not transparent and open. A lot of users and customers require software that is not potentially influenced or controlled by the Russian government. So that's why they are forking. The problematic part with the fork is the licensing, because OnlyOffice has accused EuroOffice of violating the GNU Affero General Public License v3, so the AGPL v3, which states that you can't really do these kind of things. At least it's not legally clear that this is allowed. So this is probably something that you need to go into a court and actually figure out what's allowed here. Could you fork it? Could you do these things? Or is this not allowed? Next up, we have Microsoft, which has been a little bit hostile against some of their developers. So they have locked out a couple of the different developers from pushing updates to Windows. So pushing updates to their applications on Windows. So Microsoft have now rolled out a mandatory account verification for all partners enrolled in the Windows hardware program who had not completed verification since April 2024. And by October 16, 2025, they were giving partners 30 days from notifications to verify their identity of a government-issued ID, or else they would be kicked out. And the people that have been kicked out are 3 major open source projects: the Veracrypt, the WireGuard, and WinScribe. And all of those accounts has been suspended, cutting off all their abilities to ship updates to Windows. That is not the worst part though. The worst part is, moreover, once an account has been suspended, Partner Center blocks users from opening a support ticket directly. So you are thrown out and you can't even report an issue and ask for your account to be reinstated. Of course, this is not good for these applications. I don't think it's Microsoft going against all developed software, but these were using hardware, different hardware through the kernel in Microsoft and needed to be signed by Microsoft in order to be allowed to run, of course. And this government-issued ID is a really bad kind of thing that is going through all development of these kind of proprietary locked-down systems. More and more of them require that you have a government-issued ID. But of course, Scott Hanselman, which is a really cool person that has both YouTube channel and a podcast that I listen to, and he is a VP and a member of the technical staff at Microsoft, and he has stepped in and talked to them on X that they would be this would be fixed, and he has also reported back to Microsoft, and they have looked into this, so hopefully some of these accounts can be reinstated. I have a similar issue on Android because Google has requirements for a government-issued ID for all personal accounts. Sadly, mine was a personal account and I couldn't move it over to a company account. So I had to send in a government-issued ID, which is not allowed by GDPR. So I couldn't keep my account open. So Squirrel was no longer available through there. So if you want to use Squirrel by now, you need to install Graphene OS and use F-Droid in order to use it, which is a really sad state of affairs, but that is pretty much where it goes now. I haven't done any update to Squirrel recently the world doesn't really need a secure login solution at the moment. I think username and password will work for continuing to work for the foreseeable future. Next up, we have Debian project leader has spoken out about new age verification laws. It's not much of a statement. This is the project leader Andreas Thiele that has addressed the debate. And he has just said, from a non-lawyer perspective, it's not clear how such a regulations apply to a non-commercial, volunteer-driven project like Debian, which doesn't not sell software or provide it in a high decentralized way. It seems plausible that obligations, if any, may primarily affect redistributors or commercial entities building products on top of Debian. And moreover, Soren OS says that it has no plans to introduce mandatory age or ID verification in a Linux distribution. So this debate goes on, and this was just the two news stories that I found this week about this. I'm not really that keen on talking about it anymore. Next up we have Ventoy, which I think is an interesting project. I haven't used Ventoy yet. I think it's a really cool tool. It's a tool that you can load a bunch of ISOs on it and then multi-boot, so you can put a USB stick in and then boot different operating systems depending on what you need to do, or different installers. So currently this version 1.1.11 fixes Windows and Windows PE UEFI boot display issues. It adds Krill Sec OS support. It also has a developing tool called iVentoy, which is a Pixie boot project designed for network-based OS installations. And I have never got that to work, so that is a thing that I really want to look into, how that could work and if I could use that in my little home network here. And iVentoy now supports BIOS, EI32 UEFI, x86 64 UEFI, and ARM64 UEFI modes, and compatible with over 110 operating systems, including Windows, Windows PE, Linux, and VM firmware images. Next up, we have the Linux kernel driver that wants to catch malicious USB devices in the act. So we have a couple of these kind of tools with a bad USB or, oh my god, cable or rubber ducky, where you pretty much put in a USB cable or ducky or USB stick, and it is saying that it is a keyboard instead of a USB key in some cases, and then it will send command as if it were a keyboard. So you can script it and run a bunch of things by just putting it into a computer. So in the case of a rubber ducky, you can put it in as a USB stick, write a couple of scripts, and then switch it over to exploit mode and then put it into another PC, and it will throw in all those scripts using the keyboard in quick succession and run them on the target. So this USB detecting thing is something that will monitor the USB keyboard-like devices and flag ones that are up to no good. The driver is called HID, as in Human Interface Device. Oh my god, detect, OMG detect. And it was proposed by Serbril Almaho. And it works in the way where it looked at keystroke timing entropy. So if a user is typing, it usually looks in a particular way when you are typing. Plug and type latency. So if you plug in the keyboard and it starts typing right away, that could be an indicator. And also fingerprinting of the USB descriptor. So most keyboards will send information about what kind of keyboard it is, and if it's not a regular type, that could also be an indicator. I think that's an interesting project. I'm not sure that you could catch all of them, but a couple of them should be possible. Next, we have Anthropic, that has given the Feather Association for open source $1.5 million. And this is another of those things that they are just giving away money in order to improve open source, because they are running a bunch of things on open source. So Anthropic has handed over the 1.5 million donation to ASF. The money will be earned for building a secure infrastructure, project services, and community support. And some of the projects that they have written is Kafka, Spark, Cassandra, and the HTTP server, of course, with a similar name. And also PDF Box, which I'm using for creating PDFs and so on. They have so many applications. I think they have like 500 projects or something like that with different use cases. But these are the really big ones that a lot of people are using, of course. And on the topic, Ruth Seeley, the president of the ASF Foundation, has added that open source software is a foundation of a modern digital life, largely in ways the average person is completely unaware of. And ASF projects are a critical part of that. When it works, nobody notices it, and that's exactly the goal. We also remember that Anthropic was a part of this larger group of organizations like Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, GitHub, and Google DeepMind, and also Amazon Web Services, that gave $12.5 million to the Linux Foundation, also to strengthen open source software security. So they are handing over a lot of money in order to improve open source software, which is of course good. And that was the news for today. I hope that you found this interesting. I hope that you liked this video. Give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave those in the comment section down below. And I really want to see you in the next video.